listeners, welcome back to the Endurance House podcast, the podcast about everyday average people like you and me doing extraordinary things. This week, Tammy and I had Allison Cousins over to the Endurance House, and she was such a treat, so much fun to talk to. Allison is the founder of City League here in St. Louis. City League is a non-for-profit that Allison started a couple years ago, and it's just exploded. It's been fantastic. It's providing sports for middle schoolers who wouldn't have opportunities to play sports otherwise. She's got leagues for cross country. She's got volleyball, basketball, and soccer. I think there's more, and there's more coming along the line. Her vision is just superb. I just love talking about what she has planned for the future. Allison was so much fun to talk to. We learned about she's a runner. She does run. She's run some half marathons and some marathons. She's got a sports background. We'd love to learn about her history. Just so much fun. I really do hope you enjoy listening to Allison. If you did enjoy this, as well as other episodes, don't forget to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Facebook, Instagram. You can always email us at theendurancehousepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Please reach out. If you want to support the podcast a little bit more, you can go check out our Patreon page at patreon.com, The Endurance House Podcast. I'd like to thank our current Patreons. I'd like to thank Dennis McCarthy. We'd like to thank Rachel Baker, Jeremiah Sullivan, and 10 Junk Miles is hot, just like your mom. They're all supporters of our Patreon. We got some cool things at some different membership levels, as low as $3 a month, and they are helping us out. Every little bit does help us out. You can always go to our Facebook group to search groups for the Endurance House Podcast. I think it's Endurance House Podcast Fans. Get some insights, hear from some discussions, hear from the hosts, hear from some guests. Come on in, get involved. We'd love to meet with you. I can't wait to hear what you have to think about Allison. I really do hope you enjoy the show. It's something different. It's a little bit different take on endurance, and it's fantastic. Anyway, let's go listen to Allison. Thanks. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on. Like, so happy to finally to get you on. I said we were doing the run-a-thon last week, which I look forward to talking about. And I was like, when I run is when I have those ideas, right? And I'm running, and I was like, why have we not had Allison on? Like, and Tammy and I have like these conversations about endurance and what endurance means all the time, right? And I was like,
conversations, arguments.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever. Sorry, go on. It's not time for an argument, but
and I was like, how perfect of a conversation, and we need to do it fresh, as we just had this run-a-thon, and everything that you do is so cool for the city. So looking forward to diving into that more. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored and just really impressed with what you guys are building, and it's just an awesome opportunity for great platform for people to come on and share what awesome things that they're doing in their worlds of endurance.
Yeah. So those don't know you, Allison Cousins. Thank you, Allison. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, whether it's your endurance, your running history, your education, or your work history, whatever, your family, however you want to, whatever you want to talk about. We're open ears. We'll have the floor to be yours.
Sure, thank you. Well, we'll go back to the day I was born.
There you go. Hey.
No, I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. I have been an athlete my entire life. I have a sister who's 2 years older, and we are, as opposite as can be in terms of our athleticism and our passion for sports and athletics. And, I was always the team sports and competitive one. And she has since found herself in the kind of like adventure explorer kind of athlete space, which also really kind of touches on endurance as well. But grew up in Huntsville, went to undergrad. I played volleyball in college, have kind of always been a multi-sport athlete, basketball, volleyball, have dabbled in pretty much everything. And, really my career trajectory was around athletics. So I always envisioned myself as a teacher and a coach, and, went to school for education and went right into education after graduation. Moved to Portland, Oregon. So I was there for 5 years and got a job in teaching, with PE teacher. It was actually at a really small school. So I did a little bit of everything. Really didn't fall in love with running until after I graduated and moved to Oregon. So my love and passion for the competitive nature of sports and endurance and running really, was driven by the competitive opportunities through volleyball and basketball primarily. But unfortunately, you're kind of conditioned to view running as punishment. You have to run sprints, or you have to run lines or whatever, for not performing well or making a mistake or whatever that is. And so after I graduated, I realized that I didn't have anybody telling me where to show up and what to do when I showed up. And I gained weight and I was like just unhappy and was trying to reinvent myself, trying to find myself as a young adult. And so ended up signing up for the Color Run. That was my first 5K in Oregon. I remember
Nice.
like taking the TriMet, the public transportation to the course and running and getting like the fuzz or foam or whatever, all the stuff in my eyes, and couldn't even walk the full 5K, or couldn't run the whole thing. We walked and ran. But that was like my first kind of real introduction to racing, aside from like, the fun runs when you're in kindergarten and that kind of thing. But yeah. And I think from there I was just kind of hooked. I found two girlfriends that I worked with. And so we would just work all day, and then we would just, make it easy, bring clothes and run right after. And, it turned into like my friendship. It turned into my therapy. It turned into my fitness. It was like just a really natural progression. It was something I could work on, in terms of endurance, but also like just personal goals and fitness. I do remember, I remember when I ran a mile for the first time, this is after I graduated. I was totally out of shape, and I was like, oh, I can run a mile without stopping. And then I was like, oh, I could do a 5K. That's like only 3 of those, right? And then I ran a 5K and I was like, oh, I should do a half marathon because I can do 3. I can totally do 12, did a half, and then I was like, okay, I have to go for the full. And that was like just my mindset of like, if I can do this, I can definitely do this. So my kind of like journey through finding my love of running and endurance is I would probably say a more traditional route, but it is always ebbed and flowed, and it's still ebbing and flowing in my now career and professional life. And I think I've really settled on my love for the sport is centered around the community that it brings. I really have always just found like really deep friendships with people that we, run relatively at the same pace. We generally have the same kind of lifestyle, or, right now my closest girlfriend is a mom, and her daughter is really close with my daughter. And so like our lives really just mesh well. And I've gone through seasons where I've had, various female friends and runners that our lives just meshed in that way. And so I've recently kind of fallen back in love with running again, because I found my person and my people, my group to do it with, because without that, it's just like, for me, it's not the same. So I didn't jump into you want me to jump into City League a little bit?
Well, I'm curious.
Okay.
Before that, because I do really wanted to talk about City League, but I am curious. You have and just because I know you follow Instagram, all that stuff, and what you've been putting out lately with City League, you have quite a storied basketball and volleyball past, don't you? Like, I mean, you were actually you weren't bad, were you?
I was very competitive. I was. I feel really fortunate, and I see my circumstance in just such a position of privilege, because I had, my family had the means to put me through playing club volleyball from 12 to 18, and
Uh-huh.
the amount of investment and time that they were able to give me and sacrifice on my behalf, which is what allowed me to become, play at the levels that I did. So I did, I got a full ride scholarship at Alabama Huntsville for volleyball, and dabbled with the idea of trying to play two sports in college, or trying to play basketball, or playing basketball instead of volleyball. But ultimately, I'm glad I landed where I did. I had a great education and graduated without any debt. And, I just really attribute that to the investment my parents gave me, and, the privilege of being able to compete at the high level that I did was truly a testament to, all the coaches and all the people in my path to get there.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you play volleyball and basketball like from a super young age? Like, have you always been in sports?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think my first, I think we just started. I don't know if I lived in Alabama, so it was different, but it was essentially like a rec league the city had. And I think it started at like 3 or 4. So I was really young when I was dabbling in on a little bit of everything. We had a rec soccer season, and then we went into softball. And then, I think I started playing volleyball at 6, which is really young.
Wow. So was that something that like your parents kind of like nudged you into, or did you on your own like think, you know what, this looks fun? Do you?
Oh, the funny, this is one of my posts, Jeff, you might have read it. So my actual first, it was a hard nudge. My first, my first soccer team, I was the only girl. I think I was 4, and, had no idea what to do, how to play, anything. My dad shows up in this field in like one of those big old Monte Carlos, like just big ass car. The door like weighs more than I do. And, get out, and I just like stopped at the sidewalk, and I was like, I'm not going. I'm just like, flight, what is it? Like freeze or flight or whatever. Like, I just was like, this is not happening. And my dad spanked me. It was the late 1900s. We were laughing about that. And was like, no, like, we signed you up. You're going to get out there, and you're going to like, he knew, but he was, it just took a little kick in the butt. So I mean, like 10 minutes later, I was like literally rolling all over the little boys and like having a blast. So it really just took like a gentle, hard nudge to do it. And then I think after that, I was just like, I realized that was my thing. And it was never a struggle for me, because that was, it just brought me so much joy, and like, I was good at it. It was something I could latch onto. It was all my friendships in life have always been centered around my teams. And so my sister, on the other hand, like, they made her pick one thing, and it, whether it be softball, like she played a number of years where like my dad coached, and she'd be in the dugout reading her book, and that drove him crazy.
Okay.
But she was out there, and so, you're getting dirty, you're exposing yourself to germs, like your hand-eye coordination, you're on a team, like all those benefits of being, on a team with other people were there. It was just we learned that it wasn't her thing long term.
But so you were the kid that you had something going on every season.
Oh yes, yeah. It never really stopped, and I mean, it's rolled into my adult life now too.
Right. Yeah. So as you've and that's kind of where I was going. I do want to ask though, what brought you, if you don't mind, like what took you out to Portland? Like, I mean, you go Alabama to Portland is not like, you know what? Let's just Portland, right? And then St. Louis of all places. I mean, that's quite a triangle of locations.
Yeah. Well, add another point to that star. So I met my ex-husband in New York when we were in college. At a summer camp. So I was like the volleyball director, and he was the basketball director, and he is from Beaverton, Oregon. And so we dated long distance for 3 years until we graduated, got married. I knew I wanted to live somewhere outside of Alabama and experience a different culture and just get out of there for now. And so I basically like graduated high school or graduated college. We got married in like a 2-week period, graduated, got married, and moved across the country. And landed in Portland. After we had my son Knox, who is now he's 9 and a half, 9 and change. When he was 1, we were kind of looking, I wanted to stay at home for a little while, and my ex-husband was looking for a job that, basically could support us, but also, had the lifestyle that we wanted to create. Kind of realized that was like kind of when this like mass exodus to the Pacific Northwest happened, and like it was really getting crowded and overpopulated. Like we weren't going to be able to do that the way we wanted to, and so we're looking for other areas. He found a community, a job here that fit really well with his skill set, and it was driving distance from my family, who's always been like super hands-on with my life, but also now their grandkids. And so really moved to St. Louis kind of sight unseen. Like I drove through it in college on a road trip, and I did the arch thing and like went to a game, but that was it. Literally picked our rental house when we moved here off of Craigslist, and had like somebody that he was working, one of his future coworkers, like go and scout it out for us. And it was in Shaw, just north of the park. And they were like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, there's a park. It sounds awesome.
Wow.
Nice.
That is, I'm trying to think of the word, like, risky is not the word, but like that's the vibe, like that's
bold,
just,
yeah.
Bold.
Yeah, bold. That's wild.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then look at what you created for yourself now, right? So you come here. What happens? Like what you like? I mean, you create a life for yourself here, and you've been here for quite some time, and you've built a whole organization. With being accepted by the city, which for those in St. Louis know that that's not an easy thing to do, to be accepted by the city. So yeah, tell your story about that now.
Yeah. So we moved here. I had a daughter, so I have two kids. They're now 9 and 7. Had my daughter, and I did kind of a combination of like, I watched a friend's kid. I worked part-time at the church that my ex-husband worked at, just kind of did a few odds and end things to like just support our family. And ended up going through a divorce. And through that divorce, I went back into education. And so I ended up landing at a charter school. It was called St. Louis College Prep. And this is a crazy part of the story. So my first day of employment was the day the executive director resigned, and it snowballed into the school closing.
Oh my gosh.
So, charter schools are funded by attendance and enrollment. And so they report to the state, and the state provides funding. It's public schools, free for anybody. Some charter schools have sort of a lottery system to be admitted to, but generally speaking, like within their boundaries, they're open and free to everyone. They are free for sure. So that particular executive director was falsely reporting attendance numbers and got caught by DESE, which is the Department of Education. And it all kind of snowballed, and it ended up the school was going to merge with a different school. The merge ended up falling through, but I landed really gracefully on my feet at Lafayette Preparatory Academy. As another charter school, almost, like you could throw a stone to it. It was really like a neighborhood, like in the neighborhood. Just a really wonderful school. So I went from teaching high school PE to teaching middle school PE at Lafayette Prep, and LPA is a kindergarten through 8th grade. And this is, you probably know this being from St. Louis, but you might also not if you don't live in the city and haven't navigated this. But school choice for parents is extremely hard to navigate in the city. The facts are this, like SLPS, St. Louis Public Schools, lost accreditation in 2007, which started a charter school movement. So, basically the district wasn't meeting the needs of the students and the families, and they weren't performing. So all these individuals and some kind of like national charters came to St. Louis and started launching schools. And they would generally start as a kindergarten, and then like the next year they were K1, K1-2. So they were growing out with their kind of inaugural class. So my first year at Lafayette Prep was its first full year as a full middle school. So it had been kind of gradually growing, and we were like, 8 years old or whatever, and had a full school built. And I was like, hey, where are the sports? Like I'm the PE teacher. All these kids are like super athletic, really just like into sports, but you could tell they hadn't really had any fundamental training or any like really fully developed experiences in sports. That's obviously that's a generalization. There's definitely some kids that have, but largely the charter school landscape is operating very autonomously because there is no district to connect them. And so sports generally kind of coordinated within a district. Maybe it's like a district league for SLPS, or, each district has an athletic director that works with the other just municipalities and districts. The charter schools just don't have that. And so none of the schools, in their phase of growth, they're all kind of similarly grown out, had anything. And so I was like, hey, I'll just start this thing and like put a little league together and see what happens. And so that was 2019-20. Obviously the pandemic happened. So my launch was, kind of modified based on, mitigating COVID policy and all that. But what it turned out to be is I ran it for 2 years while I was teaching at Lafayette Prep, and I was athletic director and coordinating those programs at our school. But then I was also coordinating this league. So it turned out to be, we supported 10 schools launching like full athletics programs. In that first like full year, we had 600 kids across 4 sports, in support of having all these kids like having the opportunity to play sports for the first time. And I want to say the number is 91% played a sport for the first time that first year, which is just incredible. Realized kind of like really quickly into that year that was not sustainable for me as an individual to maintain that lifestyle. Like I was just, a walking shell of myself. Mm-hmm. So made the decision, and I was in a position I'm now in a new relationship, but in a position to kind of take a leap of faith and transition it into a nonprofit, really largely without like sustainable funding lined up, without much. It was mostly like, hey, I have this vision for this thing that I want to build, and I know that I can't make it happen if I don't have the time and resources and energy to put into it. So my partner was really supportive. We basically said like, hey, let's give this a year, maybe 2, to figure out what funding looks like, what we want to build. And so transitioned it into a nonprofit last year in 2022. So we're entering our like second full fiscal year. Last year we had 720 kids across our 4 sports. We partnered with 13 schools. One has since closed, so now we have 12, but have a relationship with 2 new ones. So we've kind of done a little mixing it up in there, but it's growing, it's thriving. There's like just so much great energy. All of these schools are like really buying into it. The thing is that like the YMCA programs in the city, they stop at 6th grade. So when you get to 6th grade, you either like are forced to like choose a trajectory where it's like you're siloed into a club sport if you can afford it, or your parents have the ability to take you to it, or X, Y, or Z, or you stop playing, or like there's really just not that many other options. And so this is creating the opportunity for kids to play for their school, kind of trying to reduce a lot of the barriers in terms of cost and transportation, but also like maintaining those components of the benefits of playing for school. So, we're seeing increased academic performance. We're seeing increased peer relationships and like school culture. We're seeing increased confidence and self-esteem for each kid. And we're seeing just like decline in like behavior incidents at school too. Like kids are like wanting to be there, they're engaged, they're attending school, they're like, I'm here for sports, but because of sports, I have to do all these other things. And so I'm going to do them because I want to play sports. And so, I'm sorry, this is long-winded, but I am like so excited about the future. And I think there's just so much potential to transform the city in a way that, probably people didn't expect. We kind of have 3 phases how we want to grow the organization. Like being a transplant is really challenging to come into a space, and I'm really just like planting seeds in everything I'm doing right now, because somebody who's already been here already has all those seeds and they're probably already sprouting in some way. Whereas I'm like, sometimes I'm even like going to the grocery store and buying the seeds still.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But phase 1 is like really about sustainable funding. It's about developing like really great high quality programming, really investing in like the sportsmanship component, the academic component, really like supporting the schools to create these programs. And so phase 1 looks a lot like a CYC for charter middle schools. Like I do the scheduling, I do the officials, I do the policy and the guidance. When this happens, I have to make sure that we're growing the organization to kind of hit this standard of excellence. Phase 2, we want to expand into more programs. So we're going to have track and field, and learn to ride a bicycle program. So a lot of kids in the city don't know how to ride a bike, and it's just an access thing, right? And so in one of my PE units over COVID, I did an outdoor bicycle unit and taught like 35 kids how to ride a bicycle. And it was personally the most transformative moment in my entire career, but it also transformed not just the kids, but like families bought bikes and families learned how to ride. And I taught like how to learn how to ride a bike to parents who taught their siblings. And it was just like, it was transformed. So phase 2 is about
you got to tell us a story. You got to stop and tell that story, because you told me that and I was like, wait a minute, because I've told you about my daughter. Like, I was like, you need to talk the story about how you taught these kids how to ride a bike. It's amazing. It's so cool.
It's so simple, but it's, unless you know. So, I mean, the concept is similar to like a Strider bike. You don't have pedals, and you have to like take it back to balancing, making kids learn how to balance. So I had this process that I would do. I had 12 students. We were all masked. I had chairs sitting out in like a little circle, and I would like, teach in a circle. And then I'd be like, okay, now go to this little area of the park where, it was during COVID. So I was so careful and, wanted to be able to continue teaching in person. So the concept is you lower the seat so that their feet can be flat on the ground. You take the pedals off and you just do this like walking motion until you get to the point where both your feet are off the ground and you're kind of gliding. And then you do transition into like this like kangaroo hop motion where you're picking up both feet at the same time. And so then you now have like longer periods of time where your feet are off. And at the whole time you're learning how to steer and you're learning how to maintain balance. And people are like, it's not actually, is it hard or intimidating, because you never really get up to full speed until you're comfortable. And then the next step is to kind of speed up and just like try to do like a glide where you're like picking your feet up and gliding for 10 to 15 feet. And then this is where I know that the kid was ready for pedals. We had like a portion of the park kind of designated that was a very gradual slope. So I put them at the top and I'd be like, okay, if you can coast these 30 feet from here to here and just put your feet up, like you never go faster than you're comfortable, because it's not a fast hill. You're not like bombing the hill. You're just very gracefully going down and you can see the end point and you put your feet down. I knew that if they could go like 30 feet, just a gradual downhill slope, that they were ready for pedals. And it would take 30 minutes to an hour, like kids just feeling comfortable on a bike, learning the balance. And then they would get on the bike. I would show them the same move. We'd add the pedals back. I would show them the same move and they would literally just take off. And like I can cry just thinking about it. I have some videos I should share, but the joy, I have videos where I'm like, you're doing it. And they're like, I'm doing it. And it's just like, it's a moment that I don't think any of us will ever forget. And so that times 35, if we are able to have every kid in the city learning how to ride a bike, now they can get to school, they can get to jobs, they can, there's a number of other barriers that we'd probably have to mitigate in there. But step one, right, is just teaching them skill.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a cool story.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for making me stop and relive it. Yeah.
So what? Yeah. I'm sorry. So where were we at? Phase 2? We finishing phase 2?
Yeah. So phase 2 is about kind of expanding a couple programs, but not, it's not overcomplicated. It's just adding a couple things. But then also growing into additional schools. So I'm definitely open to a partnership with St. Louis Public Schools. At the end of the day, all these middle schools are facing similar barriers, right? None of us have adequate facilities, or there's few that do, in terms of like being able to have games at their locations, or even having, proper size nets or equipment or X, Y, or Z. So anyway, I'm open to expanding into all middle schools in the city, and it being like a true citywide league where we're all working together, because there's just few opportunities for kids to network and meet kids from other schools. And so phase 2 is kind of scaling. And then phase 3 is focused on the development of like a multi-sports complex. So this, I kind of describe phase 1 and 2 as like a CYC for charter or for middle schools in the city. Phase 3 is like an IMG Academy, an after school free IMG Academy for middle schoolers. So an IMG Academy is like this boarding school that's like fully developed around, it's in Tampa, Florida, but it's fully developed around like engaging kids academically through the vehicle of sports. Like all of their sports teams compete on a national level. You know, it's a very expensive school, but the concept kind of resonates with people. Is like, we want to bring kids in because they love sports, and then we want to use sports to develop them as individuals. So we want to include a variety of programming so that they become agile and kind of multi-sport athletes. So really take away this emphasis on like siloing kids into club sports at a really young age. Want to include elements of financial literacy, healthy eating, and social media responsibility, which are really not talked about a lot in schools. Like the ideal after school practice with like an hour of fundamental training, maybe a weight training or plyometrics or some sort of, you know, agility training, a 30-minute financial literacy lesson where you're like learning how to manage money or do X, Y, or Z with money or plan it for your future, or, you know, whatever that looks like. And then you prepare a meal with your teammates. So like you're learning how to prepare fresh foods, you're eating fresh foods, you learn to love like how your body feels when you put good nutrients in it. And then you have that familial kind of team component to it as well. Like you're doing all of these with your people, which are become your family. And so those are kind of the program elements for the youth. Also want to partner with some of the like other nonprofits that have site-based models that are already at a lot of these schools, so they can like either serve more schools or use sports as a tool to engage kids in a more kind of in a deeper way. And also other like small businesses like concessions, Steve's Hot Dogs, Four Hands. Like there's just a huge opportunity to include, you know, the ecosystem of the small businesses in the city that are thriving and, you know, ultimately like kind of serving the same families and kids. And so, and then lastly, this is a huge vision. I could talk about it all day, is incorporating adult leagues. So adults transformed by sports. Now you're playing in competitive spaces, but then you also have the ability to become like a coach or a mentor to a kid in the youth program and give back. And, you know, it's just like closes this ecosystem of great humans being, or, you know, humans consistently being developed, because even as adults, like sports continues to create opportunities for growth. And what better way to do that than being able to have a way to like do it personally, but then also create those experiences for kids. So that's a lot. It's a big vision.
That's awesome.
I mean, why bother dreaming unless you're going to dream big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, that's unbelievable. And I think what is unbelievable besides just the vision is just inspiring, and just the whole idea of the program is inspiring, is that like you're a teacher. Like, did you, and like, could you ever have imagined that you were going to go into founding and directing a nonprofit and doing all these other like outside of the classroom? Because it's all still teaching, but like it's a whole different kind of way of doing it.
Yes. I would say my life has taken a lot of crazy hard pivots that I would never have expected.
Right.
But I also think that like I have I've created a life in a space where I feel so passionate. Like I work a lot, like I really do. And, you know, half the time it doesn't feel like work because my heart is so closely attached to it. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity, because it's like really combining all of the things that I love: kids, teaching, sports, kind of community is number one for me. Like everybody in the city really has good intention. City, I feel like everybody that I've talked to, all the partnerships that, you know, I've connected with, it's like we're all doing really great work, but we have to work together in order to create meaningful change. And I'm just like, I'm all in on that. Like I want to connect the schools, I want to connect the businesses, I want to connect the people, I want everybody working together to make St. Louis bigger, brighter, smarter, healthier, all of those things. And it has to start with kids, in my opinion.
So so it's called City League,
Yeah.
you know, which is great. And it's made its name just in the last year that I can see that it's made its name across the city, and made a huge impact, just as you mentioned. But those first couple years when you kind of were first starting out, it wasn't called anything. It was Allison getting a bunch of kids together. I'm curious about how you kind of approached that and diving into that, like how you approached just let's get a bunch of kids together from a couple different schools and play some sports. Like how did that go? Like when you went to talk to schools, bringing kids on, they're like, no, you're crazy. Like we haven't done that for 30 years. I don't know. Like it's just amazing to me.
I think there's 2 points to this question. The first point is, I think just as a teacher and by my nature, I have a problem solving attitude. So like when you come to a problem, it's not like, oh, I like dead end. It's like, what are we going to do to solve it? And what are the ways around it? And what are the options here? And I think a lot of teachers approach life like that because that's kind of how you have to live in the classroom. Like everything is a problem unless you create a solution. And we are creating opportunities for kids and people to be problem solvers. And so, and then secondarily, and I'll come back to kind of the process, is building City League was really kind of in a parallel path to this other startup that I kind of launched along the side, which is totally opposite and hilarious. You'll probably laugh because both of you are probably married, and so it's a dating app.
So I was gonna ask. I do know this, but I was gonna ask. So go ahead and explain. Yeah.
So through my divorce, re-entered the dating market, really discovered how inefficient, inauthentic, and kind of just like discouraging the experience of dating online is. Like you're not making genuine connection until you actually meet in person. And if you meet in person, like that doesn't translate from your virtual connection. And so anyway, the idea is that you connect people in person while you're attending large scale events. So like a Cardinals game, you have the first interaction at the game with like a very low pressure, safe environment of like, you can meet between innings. Like if you're enjoying it, you can stay and continue the conversation. It's not a first date. There's no pressure. You don't have to rearrange your schedule for it. You basically just get a sense of if you want to pursue getting to know this person and or schedule a real kind of date later. And you probably have a shared interest if you're spending time in similar spaces like that. So I went through a number of kind of incubators, accelerators, kind of startup programs that really supported City League's kind of launch. And I applied a lot of the principles that I learned through Approach, kind of the phasing, the strategy around starting a company. And, I applied it directly to City League because I was essentially double dipping because I'm getting all this new information and is building both of these things in parallels. And so, it really was like, hey, I have this vision for this, IMG Academy after school in St. Louis, Missouri, but I know that I'm not going to get there, next year. So how do we build this out that resonates with people, where people, it's growing and it's building traction. Like traction is a big kind of buzzword in the startup space. How am I going to continue to build traction where enough people are behind this vision, where we're going to get funding, we're going to bring this vision and mission to life. And that's what we're doing. I mean, that's why we have 3 phases. Like I have a partnership with 12 schools, which is incredible. What if I had a partnership with 30 schools? Like how awesome would that be? And then, if 30 schools are involved and people hear this next part of the vision and they're like, you're already doing it. How can we make it better? It's kind of a no-brainer. So that's kind of the tangent on the startup side. But I mean, the practical part of it was like figuring out who to play, where to play, who coordinates it, how do I coordinate it. I learned how to write a lot of policy, had a lot of support. I had a lot of people that were like, have you thought about this? Or what about this? A lot of mentors that really supported the vision. And I still am learning a lot of it.
I mean, I guess what I'm thinking is you're teaching at this school, you're a PE teacher at this middle school, right? Or K through 8, right?
I'm teaching the middle school only though.
Yeah. Okay. And the problem is, hey, is there a volleyball league? Right? I know volleyball, I know basketball. Is there volleyball? Like, do we have volleyball at the school? No, we don't do sports. right? I mean, is that the problem that you faced right away?
Yeah. Yep. It was who do we play if we were to create our own team?
Mm-hmm.
Who would coordinate it, or who do we even approach to set up games? Where do we play that's accessible for our families? You know, a lot of families don't have the means to pick their kid up at 3:00 and drive them to across town to play. Transportation, funding, etc. So it was just like, it was a backwards solution of like all these barriers. Like, we can't solve every single one of them in year one, but we can mitigate a lot of them and create a structure that will ultimately mitigate most of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it was going around to different schools.
Yep.
Did you get rejected from any schools? Or was
So
everybody receptive about it? Like, was everybody pretty much receptive?
I think everybody was really, really involved, like passionate about the vision. I did have a couple schools so we charge league fees. So just like in an adult league, like you know, your team has like a buy-in, so to speak, but it really just covers the officials and some of the programs we have, you know, facilities costs or rental costs or whatever. So not much of it is going back into like general city league operating. But there's a number of like kind of loopholes that some programs have kind of figured out. Like, if you play all your games away, you don't have to pay any officials costs. So it keeps your costs pretty low. And so when I, you know, threw out our fees number, they were like, whoa, that's too much. Like, we're paying $100 for the whole season. I'm like, well, that, you know, you're also like, you're giving weight to every game, you know, when you're in a league, and like every game means something because you're building towards the city championship. So the way our seasons are structured is we have a regular season season for each sport. You're seeded out of your performance in the season, and then you have a single elimination city championship tournament. So it makes it like you're playing for something. It has a lot of weight and meaning behind it. And so I think that's where we're going to get a lot of buy-in. We are going to continue to try to reduce our fees for schools because funding is another barrier. But right now, like, that's part of our revenue where we're able to be sustainable. We're building in sustainability. So it's going to be kind of a both and in terms of building out solutions. But a lot of schools were really involved. I mean, we had 10 schools that first year that were all in, and, you know, essentially like, where do we sign and how do we do it? You know, so it came down to like, I required everybody to have an athletic director or an activities coordinator, but, you know, they're probably also wearing at least one other hat or two other hats. You know, maybe they're the dean, or maybe they're the PE teacher, or maybe they're, you know, doing 3 other things in the school. But they take on that role. So like, I have a primary point person and investment from each school, rather than trying to, you know, it would be too much to work with, like, you know, a parent volunteer over here, and then over here you have this, like, we're bringing everybody moving forward in the same direction from the school position. Yeah.
Now, what sports all do they cover?
Cross country and volleyball in the fall. Basketball is our winter sport, and then soccer in the spring.
Okay.
So kind of 4 core sports that we started with.
And do all schools participate in all those sports?
If there's interest, yes.
Okay.
So some of the schools are a little bit like, they're smaller, depending on their student interests. Yes. We've had a couple of situations where like 2 schools had half the amount of girls required to make a girls team, so they combined teams, and so they were like a blended team. But ultimately, the goal is to have every team competing in every division of every sport, and when we grow, we build off of that. And it, you know, that might not happen every year, just based on what the kids want, and that's okay too, because we want kids doing what they want to do.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tammy.
I was going to kind of switch gears from City League, but
I wanted to
ask your question.
Okay. I wanted to, do you make every meet and every game and every, you know, all of everything, get what you can?
Do I go to all of them? Yes. Came from a meet tonight. We had almost just shy of 100 kids run. It was at Benton Park. I'm still very much fully in the weeds in the programming.
Okay.
Eventually my goal would be to hire somebody to come in and support programming. The benefit of having like partnerships with schools is that as they continue to build, they're kind of understanding like what it looks like to host sports. And so, you know, we've gotten to the point for volleyball where I like make a stop in all the different gyms that we have and basically do a check-in. And so like, I'm not there for every moment of every game, but there are systems and policy in place. So if something were to happen, or, you know, how do I get the scores at the end of the night, or X, Y, or Z. But I'm definitely like everywhere all the time still. And I think it's good though, because I'm like very closely have a pulse on how we're growing and what's happening and who knows what, and what's, you know, how people are buying in.
And you're intimately involved with each one of these kids. I mean, you see these kids play every, you know, other night, every week. Are you seeing their transformations right in front of your eyes? You just have to be.
It is really incredible. I mean, cross country, I think, is the easiest example, because it's like we have 3 meets and they're 3 weeks apart. And so the first meet, like everybody's lining up at the line like a track meet, right? And they don't even never have raced cross country, don't even understand the scoring. Like, and by the end of that first meet, they're like, they know their time, they know how the meets are scored. So like their teams have either won or lost, and they're like, oh, and so the next meet, like they're, you know, I have kids run up to me and be like, I'm gonna run it in, you know, 15 minutes, and I'm gonna do this, and you know, it's a 3K. So it is such a tangible progression. And I mean, Mark Spiewak is kind of a partner that we have for cross country. He is a partner and helps throw the meets and host meets. We've also had Fontbonne University come out, and their cross country and track team have like facilitated the course, and like just having college athletes there, which is really cool. And you know, I had a parent come up to me and was like, this is like changed. Her name was Ava. It just changed her life. Like, she loves it. She wrote about it on her high school application. She like, you know, I took a video and I was like, I should send it to mom, because her face was just so determined when she was running. It was so cute. I was like, man, that is just the best feeling, you know, like I'm working so hard and literally giving my everything for it. So yes, it is. And every week gets kind of smoother. I feel like, you know, for volleyball season, like the first 2 weeks are like learning how to chew gum and walk at the same time. Like, how do we do this, you know? And then by the 3rd week, people are like, okay, I understand all the nuances to volleyball. Now I can focus on like learning how to play, you know, because there's so many factors. And when you're a coach and you're trying to, you know, kids don't even really know how to like be like they're playing on their phones on the bench and chewing gum on the bench, whereas like I grew up like that was not what you do, like, you know. And so like, you're teaching a culture, you're teaching how to be a teammate, you're teaching all of these components that are like so ingrained into some of our, you know, like my experiences. You don't think about how much there is in terms of like catching up to do for kids that haven't had that until middle school. So it is awesome. It is. I think I need to stop and kind of soak those moments up more, because you're right. There is like just so much transformation happening all the time, everywhere around you, when you stop to pay attention.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, do all the schools have gymnasiums or a place to play volleyball or basketball inside?
No. Most charter schools are operating out of pre-existing buildings. Some of them are school buildings, some of them are churches, some of them are office buildings. So no is the answer. There are a number of them that have gyms. Right now we're hosting games at 4 different schools that have kind of adequate space. Because when you think about, you know, if we have 2 games in a night, you have, you know, 300 people filtering in and out, and where do the parents sit? And so there's a lot of things, you know, like even the schools that have kind of like what we call like a Cracker Jack box gym, where it's just like a court with nothing around it. Like, they can practice there, but they can't host a game there.
Right.
I would say most schools, with the exception of 1 or 2, have some space to at least practice. One is near a community center, so they kind of walk over after school, but they're not getting in PE. You know, like if they don't have a space, they don't have a gym, like they're not getting exposed to different fundamentals in PE or anything like that either. So that's part of the vision for the facility is that a lot of even at SLPS, like a lot of the middle schools play on the weekends at the high schools. And so like same thing is like, we need facilities, and we need them built for kids that are not just in high school, because otherwise you're not going to build sustainable programming. And you see like all the, I don't know if you've seen in the news, but like there's a lot of fights and violence happening at football games on Friday nights. And I just truly think that bringing all these kids together from different neighborhoods and different schools and having them get to know each other through sports. So, you know, the concept of like this fundamental component of training where like, if you're playing basketball, you pull all the point guards and you're all learning these skills together with point guards from other teams, and you pull all the posts and they're all, so like then when they go to compete, it's not like this random dude that I heard said X, Y, or Z on social media and It's like your brother that you knew and you've been playing with and you like, you know, helped up, you know, when you've tripped or whatever, like, you know, these kids on a more intimate level and they're like your friends rather than your enemy. And so I think why I'm so passionate about this long-term vision is because it's like truly the way I think our city is going to decrease crime. It's going to reduce violence in the city because kids are going to be engaged in something meaningful to them, and they're going to know each other in a way that they would have if they didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you say all that, it just comes to mind like you are going to change the answer to this would be a good vision statement. You're going to change the answer to the question of what high school did you go to?
I love it. I love it.
I mean, when I talk about dreaming big, Jeff, I mean, that's change that in St. Louis. That's a big dream.
I think I would I need to become the mayor if I end up doing that or something. Oh my God.
Right. I'm kidding. Because you are integrating these kids that would never have an opportunity to integrate again. Right. And that's really what that question is about. Like, right. Is what high school you meant to tell so much about yourself. Right. Whereas all these kids are being integrated into these sports and are playing with each other, playing against each other. And it doesn't matter where they're coming from or where they grew up. Right. That's what's amazing to it.
That's interesting. That's so funny. I have like so many visions of, you know, there are all these programming things. Like I want all the high schools to come in and run camps for our kids because then they get to see how every school does it. And like now they're getting exposed to different styles of coaching, and I could go on, but it makes me so excited. That's hilarious. And yeah, it'd be interesting.
It's never going to happen, but it's cute.
I love it. Tammy's like, no, not St. Louis.
Tammy's the only one of us that is actually from St. Louis. So,
okay. Well, where'd you go to high school, Tammy?
Do I need to announce? You know what? See, here's the thing. When I say where I went to high school, I feel like I need to bring it with a disclaimer because like I have my own thoughts about like what that means. And so like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't put it out there, but
fair enough. No pressure.
It's more where do I send my child to school now? I feel like that says more about me than where I
That's fair. I as a transplant, it means less to me.
Exactly. Right.
Like I love St. Louis. I think St. Louis has a lot of growth to do. I think there's so much really deep history in the city, and it's going to take a lot for us to kind of get to a point where we have a mindset where we're ready to change in a meaningful way, and then two, like to understand that change has to happen in order for St. Louis to progress. So anyway, that's a whole.
That's awesome.
So I think it's so interesting because St. Louis, and I'm sure like plenty of cities, but St. Louis has, you know, a lot of people, a lot of natives that are, you know, are very proud. Like we, you know, love our city and proudly rep our city and get mad if anybody hates on it that isn't from here. We can hate on it ourselves and say bad things, right? But like, but I think it's so interesting that somebody that is a transplant has started this organization that is so key to building like that community spirit of the city, because I feel like a lot of times you wouldn't see that from somebody. I imagine you wouldn't see that from a transplant. So I think it's amazing that an outsider is, but like, I mean, like you're building something that will hopefully have, you know, take root and be a long-term fixture in the city.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I hope I hope it, I can't wait till the day we bring it fully to life, and it's going to always evolve and be a work in progress, just like any organization is. But I just so excited, and I think St. Louis just has so much potential, and that's what I see. That's truly what I see.
And who knew that when you decided to move here on a whim?
Craigslist, right? Thank you.
Right. Yeah. No, and and you just don't know if it would be if you would have the same reception in another city. Like, just thinking about other cities that would be, I mean, Chicago's an extreme, but Indianapolis or even, Oregon, even, Portland or Seattle, they have different, like St. Louis has this unique, and I think it's unique, this unique school issues, right? With the charter, charter schools and how those are different. And it really does lend itself to that program very well. And the fact that people are open to it is even better.
Yeah. So I met with Maxine Clark and shared my vision, kind of shared about Approach, and then, which is a dating app, and then also shared about City League. And I think I remember her initial response being trademark the template of City League and let's bring it bring it to other cities. So Kansas City has a very similar educational landscape. There's a lot of charter schools. It's kind of autonomous, kind of in terms of it's all very neighborhood based, and lots of good schools doing individual things, but disconnected and no kind of connection point. And so I was like, maybe that's phase 5 or something, we bring City League to other cities, especially in Missouri or in vicinity, where we then have the ability to all the state organizations are doing that kind of in a way through the state championships and all that. But this is, I think, just such a different vision and very in terms of the programming, very developed compared to what Misha does. Misha is a governing body.
Right. So is it, and it's only middle school, right? It is 6 to 8.
Primarily, we invite 5th graders to participate. The developmental difference between a 5th grader and an 8th grader is pretty drastic. It's kind of up to the schools if they have a high achieving athlete in the 5th grade, or if they need to add more numbers to their roster. But largely it's 6th through 8th grade. And that was intentional because high schools do have athletics programs. Elementary, there are community-based programs that are happening at the elementary level. The gap is truly in middle school, and that's where you're losing kids. You're losing kids you're dropping out of school. You're losing their behavior, their engagement. They're just sitting on their couches, playing on their phones, getting into other things. And so that was the gap that I identified.
No, that's really true. I now that you really think about it, you have YMCA programs for, young, be pre-elementary and elementary schools. And then you have high school programs, but unless you are paying for some kind of club, right? Which are expensive clubs. That middle school kind of 6 to 8 is quite expensive to do. And there's not any school sponsored programs.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them.
Yeah. I think one of the pillars that we're kind of building off of, there's 4. One is access to high quality sports. The other one is the connection with the school component. So the academics, the behavior, the attendance, all the benefits of playing for your school. The 3rd pillar is truly sport sampling and becoming multi-sport athletes. So we're trying to push back against this, go into club sports, at 9, 10, 12 years old and silo yourself. Try everything. You become a more versatile athlete. You build all these other skills that transcend. If you're playing volleyball, that footwork translates into basketball. And so pushing back against that. And then the 4th pillar is around connecting the community is, so.
Your kids all play sports?
Both my kids do. Knox is into a little bit of everything. He does hockey, basketball, soccer, baseball. He'd probably do it all. And then Joe does gymnastics, and she's just trying figure skating lessons right now.
Oh.
she retired or quit soccer because it wasn't her thing. But I think she is a great athlete. I think she just got to fall in love with it. And so if you push too hard too early, like we're trying to let her find her way, but while encouraging her. I'm not going to spank her on the sidewalk, but I might push her.
It's not the 1900s anymore.
I know. Yeah. Different day, different time, different age.
So, you sound pretty busy. Obviously, you have your hand in a lot of aspects of this, but do you ever get out there on the courts with the athletes and you're like, no, let me show you how it's done? Like, do you ever relive that?
I will occasionally. So when I was at LPA, I would, like during PE, I would play against my kids all the time. And my main asset in basketball is shooting. Like I was just a hot shooter. I was really good. And so I scored 1,000 points in high school. So I would just like stand behind the free throw line or the 3-point line and just drain them. And they were like, "Whoa, Coach Cousins." And I'm like, "Yeah, doing it a while, And then volleyball, obviously, like, I could serve a ball with my eyes closed. And so I do occasionally, like the other night I was at Momentum Academy and some of the kids were warming up and I just started picking up the balls and serving a little bit. And they were like, "Who's this lady?" And then they're like, "Oh, I know you," And then I started, I'm like, "Hey, toss it with your left hand, not your right hand." So yes, I don't get into it quite as much. I think that's, just a capacity thing for me. Like I would love to coach, but I know that I can reach more kids and create more opportunity if I'm kind of at the league level right now. Whereas eventually one day I want to get back and like truly be on the court and coach with the kids because that's what it's really all about.
Do you think if your commitments ease up, I guess, like if that day ever happens, because the way that you're going, I think it might be a while. I was going to ask about coaching your own kids, if you would ever do that, or if you think like you kept saying how competitive you are. Would it be a little much?
No, I definitely would. I do have interest in coaching my kids volleyball. Their dad coaches basketball and my partner coaches his hockey. So we have our hand, like I'm the team manager for hockey too. So like I'm coordinating all the tournaments, which is like, for me, it's like no brainer work because I'm doing it all kind of at the league level anyway. So, yes, we're going to always be involved. There's always kind of the, like, are you the best coach for your kid? Are they going to listen to you the same way they would with somebody else? And so I haven't fully like taken that leap yet. I'm totally interested in doing volleyball because that's my main sport. And they're on the younger side of playing volleyball right now. So when they get a little bit older, I'm in to try it. And I love the sport. And I think it'd be a great way to just build a connection with the kids. So
absolutely.
TBD.
And how about your own running again? Like, Are you back running again?
I'm running about 2 or 3 days a week right now with a girlfriend that I met through my daughter's friendship. And it just works. Like I transitioned from out of the classroom. So I'm working from home primarily, which I really love. It is a little isolating. So I have to like build in a lot of my work right now too is networking. Cause I'm like I said, planting all these seeds. And so I do have a lot of opportunity for connection, but if you're just like working in a work environment where you have lots of coworkers and there's chatter and, I went from being surrounded by 70 kids all day long to like, now it's really quiet. And I'm like, I don't hate it, but it's different. So, yes, I'm figuring out the transition, like kind of in my life in general from like working a 9 to 5 to now I work for City League, which is, I'm making all of the decisions in terms of how I set my day up, how I do the programming. So I have a lot of things that are like, structured, and then I have things that are a little bit more fluid. And then just trying to build in, like, there was definitely a period of time where it was just like all encompassing, and exercise is always kind of the first thing that goes, right? Like healthy eating and exercise, which are the things that you have to invest the most time and energy into, they go off the table first, those are the two things that you need in order to sustain. And so I've more recently kind of figured that back out and reinvesting in making sure I get up and work out because I'm a morning workout person, making sure I meal prep on Sundays because if I don't eat adequately during the week, and then I'm hungry and crabby, and so like I'm finding, and I like, I had a really close girlfriend, and our relationship was like fully around running, and we trained for the Indy Marathon in 2019, and I got injured, she got faster, I got slower, and like our friendship has morphed and changed, but it hasn't transcended in running. And so we've, now have a different type of friendship, but like then my love of running was kind of struggled because I loved being with her and like running with her, and it was our friendship, and so I'm really excited by having kind of a new phase that I'm entering, kind of rebuilding and feeling good again in my body and feeling healthy. And again, like all of it is like setting the lifestyle that you want your kids to see you have, right? Like, I think that's super important. They need to know, like, why is mom not here in the morning? Oh, because she's running. Like, that's something that, there's all this data around, like, especially moms, kids seeing their mom investing in her own health is really powerful. And so, yeah, it's a journey. It ebbs and flows. I feel
it
like
really does.
I'm on a good trajectory right now. 2021, I signed up for 3 races and ran them all untrained and hated every second of it.
Oh, okay.
And I was, normally it's like the carrot, like it motivates you to train. And I was like, well, I'll be fine. And it was not fun. It was not fun. It was terrible. So I've since like kind of tapered off, like signing up for things. I just do them for fun now. And I'm trying to just keep an open mindset because that's the ebb and the flow of it,
There you go. I'm with you on that 100%.
Yeah.
Because it is just fun to just get back to enjoying, like remembering the fun in it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I feel like you probably can resonate, like that first like good run that you have after you like are rebuilding out of, coming back from being out of shape. Like there's something just so powerful. It's like the what is light without darkness? Like what is feeling good to run without when you don't feel good, like yeah, I think that's what makes all runners hooked, is that feeling, like that runner's high, the feeling that it's just so empowering.
Yeah, it really is. You also picked up another habit, right?
I did. What did I do?
Another sport?
Oh yes, we've been talking about this. I was like, wait a second.
We're
I was
going
like, gosh, I have no more time for habits. No, yeah, I'm into pickleball. Just with
you know what's so funny? I was gonna guess that because that's what like every new sport that everybody's picked up, right?
Yeah, Tammy, have you played?
Not since middle school. I think or high school, maybe.
Well, we need a 4th, Jeff. We'll find a 4th, and the 3 of us can go play.
Yeah. We definitely Allison and I already tried to get together, and it completely fell apart on my end, and now we need a 4th. We definitely need a 4th.
I'll happily try to play.
Oh,
I'll injure myself so I can't run, but
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no, pickleball is so fun, and I think it's a accessible sport for so many people of all different levels, which I love. That's what I love about it. Like, there's so many people out there 60 plus that are getting it, and they are good.
Yeah. Have you thought about that for City League?
Yes, it's in phase 3. It's written in.
It's written into phase 3.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, yeah, I can send you the whole deck, but it's definitely there, and kids ask for it all the time.
I'm sure they do. I mean, yeah. My son been playing it. My son is big in baseball, and he'll go out, and while he was in high school, he would get together with his friends and they would go play pickleball.
It's amazing. It is. And I think even, it's an entry level sport. Any kid that's not necessarily coordinated, that wouldn't find success in tennis or wouldn't find success in any other hand-eye coordination sport, like pickleball is it. Like anybody can play it. So yes, phase 3 has a whole host of programs: chess, robotics, outdoor adventure. We really want to expose kids to kind of kayaking, hiking, kind of outdoor exploring. A lot of kids in the city don't leave the city or like haven't experienced nature, haven't gone camping. Like, I was a Girl Scout growing up, and that was such a huge part of my childhood. And have backpacked on the Katy Trail, or the Appalachian Trail for 2 weeks, and like those are the things similar to sports that like transform you, right? Like you hold on to those experiences and apply them in your life. in a lot of ways. And so opportunities for kids.
Well, if you ever want to have an opportunity to get them out on a trail, you know who to call.
I do. I think I'm probably going to have to take you up on that, because I have a whole bunch of cross-country runners who are like obsessed with it. And we could be like, hey, phase 2, or just like, hey, next week, let's just do this trail run.
Let's go out on a trail run. Right.
I'd be down. We should connect off of that offline and make that happen.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, Allison, I'm so impressed. I mean,
thank you.
Tammy, what do you think about this for endurance? Right. I mean, what you have gone through, we talked a lot about running. We did talk about some about running, but this is endurance in a whole different way. How you have transformed your life into this passion is a true definition of endurance. Am I wrong, Tammy?
No, and my funny thing is, it's like, I'm stuck thinking, like, how much sleep must you get? Like, that's what I'm thinking, the endurance. Like, this seems to take a lot of energy. Like,
it is a marathon. It is a marathon, not a sprint, for sure. But yes, it is. And I think, like, to your point, my vision is it's 10 years, and that is endurance, because I plan to be a part of it, from day 1 to day 10 year to beyond. Like, this is something I'm really passionate about bringing to life, but can only do that. And just like any endurance athlete, you got to figure out ways to make it sustainable.
I mean, you push yourself every day. You push yourself every day to do something new. You push yourself every day to make these things happen. And that's endurance.
Yeah.
It may not be out on a trail. It may not be on a bike. It may not be on the road, but it's definitely endurance, and it's making a difference, which I think is so cool. We just participated in a run-a-thon, which up until 2 months ago, I never even heard of what a run-a-thon would be. We had jump rope for heart as a kid, right? And so when you started explaining that to me, I said, I'm like, do you remember jump rope for heart? Like, that was what, hey, how many minutes or how many hours can you jump rope, right? And you put together this run-a-thon. What made you this was the second year that you did it this year. What made you think of doing that? And tell us about the difference between last year, this year, and just putting all that together. It was just amazing.
Well, thank you. So I was introduced to the concept when I was in Oregon. It was another nonprofit that was actually connected to homelessness. It was a nonprofit that supported supported people who were living on the street finding stable housing. Anyway, they came out and recruited like all the different schools and classes and community groups to come and participate. So I was like, this is awesome. The kids felt like they were doing something that was creating an impact outside of themselves. And it was a class event. So we all got to do something outside of school together. It was a private school, so a lot of the families, had means. And so they were just they felt great because it was being a part of something outside of, larger than themselves. Event at the time was in Portland. So it was around 2 downtown blocks in the city. And it was there's several streets in St. Louis where they have a giant median in the middle with a park almost in the middle. And it was central in the very downtown district in Portland. But it was just a transformative experience. You're doing something for other people with other people that are different and similar to you, and all kind of for the same cause. And I loved it. And I think I was hooked on it because it kind of embodies all of the values of our organization, right? Movement, connection, equity. We're combining all these things into one event that eventually I want to grow. So last year, it took me almost a month and a half of cold calling, trying to find a track that would host us. Finally landed a track, and with really not much time to do any recruiting or promotion of it, because it just, I only had 3 weeks of a runway at that point. And so this second year that first year we had 11 people that ran, and it was my friends from Happy's Running Club, JC from Dogtown, a couple people showed up. Like, it was very intimate, like really a lot of my like core friends. And then the board chair of City League like brought his family and they did the tally. So it was like grassroots, no decorations, like here's a track. I think I brought my like boom box and we played some music, but that it was super just like, hey, we're here, year one event, like let's just do it. So I had that kind of under my belt, kind of saw the vision from my experience back in Portland, and I was like, this is going to grow. I want to involve all the different running clubs, gyms, like all these people that similar to like phase 3 where we do run adult leagues, like all these people that have been transformed through sports now have a direct way of being involved in our programming, whether it be through fundraising or becoming volunteers or mentors or what have you. So I just started going out to all the different run clubs, started inviting people and like just sharing what we're doing, what we're building. I think, a lot of the work I'm doing right now is just laying the groundwork of, hey, this is the reality of what families in St. Louis are facing in terms of making decisions about school. Like half the kids in St. Louis are attending charter schools now. Like nobody, like that's like mind blowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so put a lot of work in, like just activating groups of people who are athletic, who are fitness based, who love running and movement and connection. And so invited Arch City Run Club out and Dogtown and Speedwalk, and we had a CrossFit gym, and we had a STL Run Crew, and just like a number of organizations that were like, I love kids, I love the vision, what you're building, I want to be there. And so they showed up. We had 126 people register. I think we had just over 100 people actually show up and participate, raised just shy of $14,000.
That's amazing.
Like
That's so cool.
10x growth from year 1 to year 2. And I'm already like, okay, so we have one more year, then we're going to outgrow the track, and then we're going to go to the city block. And like, I'm already like, woo. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's not to say that what we did this year was huge. I mean, it was huge. It was a incredible event. It was like, we had the bubble bus, spitting bubbles all over the track, balloons, and like just music, a DJ, and MC. So like the vibe was just like really positive. You're zigzagging around kids, because we also invited the schools that we partnered with to participate, and they could raise funding for their own programs. So you're running like with kids that are in the program, you're running around their siblings, you're running, weaving in and out of bubbles. Like it's just a fun environment. And, you can tell me if you had fun, but it was just like seeing the growth from year 1 to year 2 was like, okay, this is why what we do is meaningful. And this is why I truly believe that people are going to start, the more that they get to know what we're building, they're going to get behind it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, and you had walkers, you had kids, you had people that were sprinting. The little kids were the best. And you had people trying to actually get a full distance. Like I knew one guy he's like, I'm going to try to get 10 miles. I was like, good, have fun with that. Like, and he was pretty much sprinting the whole time. Right. Then, we had just people just having fun. And then the bubbles, you had to run through the bubbles every time.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was, and then to see the kids that this was affecting, that we were raising money for at the water stations and at the, hanging out and helping and doing everything. It was a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see it next year and support it again. And we just had a great time. So.
Well, thank you. And thank you for sponsoring and just being a part, bringing your crew out. It was like I can't do it without you guys, and you are huge in making it happen.
So do you have anything else in plan for, is that your like one and your big annual event now, or
does she have anything else planned?
She's
got like a million things up her sleeve.
I know. I know the wheels are spinning.
Okay, well here I'm actually going to throw something at you, and I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have to give me an answer tonight, but here's my vision. I want to continue the momentum of a runathon energy and environment, because we want to stay in front of all the people that want to be a part of an event like that. We want to continue creating touch points with City League, but also with connecting all the different groups, because everything I do is all about connecting people. So this is my vision. It is between now and the next year's runathon, we have about somewhere between like 6 and 8 of these. It's average about every month or every 6 weeks. each event is in partnership with one of the clubs who is bringing a team to the runathon. So Arch City might do one based out of ITAP. Dogtown might do one based out of Heavy Riff. And so they're all in they all have kind of a flavor of the community that's hosting them. So CrossFit Happy Streets would maybe do one in the Grove, that's where they're located. So here's how it works is, City League and this group, community, organization, whatever, partners to host an event. It's called an adventure run. And you basically you pick your starting and stopping location. So let's say for the sake of this, we pick ITAP for Arch City Run Club. So we draw a perimeter of a mile around ITAP, and we go to every business in that mile that might be interested in participating. To participate, you have to donate a raffle item. So it could be like a gift card or an item. And then during the event, you have to hand out raffle tickets. Okay, so the value for the business is that we're exposing traffic to your business. People are going to come in, maybe they didn't know about you, maybe they're like, oh, I forgot about this place or whatever. So it starts at ITAP at 5:00. I'm just making times up and locations and all that. And at kind of on the hour, we reveal this map, and the map has the locations of all the participating businesses. So nobody knows it except for us before we launch. So all the runners then have 1 hour. It's like a choose your own adventure. You take a photo with your phone of the map, and you try to create a route where you can hit the most businesses and then make it back by the end of the hour. And each business that you go stop in gives you a raffle ticket, and you drop your raffle tickets in at the back when you return. At the hour, we close up, and then we hand out all the raffle items. So all the businesses get traffic, all the run clubs get to do something together. All the organizations that are the co-hosts get to kind of share what your flavor of your organization does, whether it be a running group or a fitness gym or something similar. But ultimately, we're all doing something together, and it keeps City League kind of in front of everybody and hey, here's a little bit about what's happening this month or this month. Here's a story about a kid. Hey, we have this event coming up, or we were looking for volunteers, or hey, join the runathon, So just a way to continue to build traction and continue to connecting people, continuing to create opportunities for partnership, and just a fun, engaging event for people that that's what everybody's kind of looking for, an excuse to run, excuse to exercise, excuse to find community. They could do all of those things. So what do you think?
I think it sounds great. It sounds like a pub run. Yeah, I mean,
very similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's
especially when you're talking about Soulard, but
or a scavenger hunt of right.
Very much that.
It's
a choosing an adventure.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it's really all about raising awareness, right? I mean, because you're going to always get people to come out. Raising money is a whole different avenue, right? But really by raising awareness, you're going to raise other things as well.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. Yeah, no, I'm on board. Awesome. So we'll definitely have to talk.
My number. Yes. Yeah. Also, we have all the photos came back today, and I am so excited to share them. So keep an eye out for your email, because we got lots of really cool runathon photos. Yeah,
we'll have to share some of those. Definitely. Yes, we'll have to share some across the board. So Allison, thank you for coming on. This was I love City League. I love everything that you have put together. When we first talked a couple months ago, and we've been involved in other races. Spiewak puts on the race, and that's where I first heard about you guys, and what you've done. And then when we first talked, it really is, it's a great program. It's great for the kids of St. Louis, and what you are doing is truly endurance. And like Tammy said, I don't know when you sleep. I'm glad that you are getting out there and still running, and you are keep taking care of yourself, but man, you're busy. And it's all good. Yeah. So I mean, back on kind of on the endurance rate thing, and you talk about your running, as we close out, we always do talk kind of ask the same 4 questions of everybody. So in your running or exercising or whatever, right? And you can even talk about with City League. What's your favorite place to run?
I so I live near Tower Grove, so I'm biased, but Tower Grove and Forest Park, if I was to do a long run connecting the two, I run every morning, or all the mornings I run in Tower Grove. I love the city. I think, this, as you become a runner, or if you are a runner, once you run from point A to point B, like everything feels so much closer and so much more intimate, and you just experience the city in such a different way. So the city is my real answer. Tower Grove Park, Forest Park. We have so many great parks, but yeah, the city.
Yeah. Is there a bucket list or a bucket list race or a bucket list place to run that you never have, that you'd like to do someday?
I think I would like to do Berlin, the marathon.
Okay.
I think if I were to train for another marathon, it would be a big one, and probably international. Make the toll that it takes on your body, and I've had a bout of shin splints and stress fractures. So, but it would have to be a big one. And Berlin is just such a cool race, and yeah, that's my bucket race.
Yeah. I would like to see your schedule and how you schedule each of your days and your weeks when you train for a marathon.
I don't, TBD.
Then, man, I just can't even imagine. I really can't imagine.
It's so funny.
It can be done, but it can be done.
You have to just adapt, right? Like, oh, why are you running your long 20-miler on a Thursday morning at 4 a.m.? Oh, because it's only works.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we here are all about networking, and we're networking about, and it's all about the average everyday person that's just killing it at their job, killing it at endurance, killing it in running, whatever, right? And so we love to talk to network about all these people. Are there two people that you can think of that would be great for this podcast?
Yes, I've thought about this. Two people. Melissa Weber, she is very ingrained in the St. Louis running community. Also is a passionate entrepreneur and trying to launch a startup called First Drafts. But again, similarly, like endurance is everything. She's training for a half and kind of really trying to focus on increasing her speed. And she's just an awesome woman and individual. So she's number one. Number two is actually, I was thinking about this and kind of the scope of endurance, but I have a high school friend who is now she competes in she competes in like bodybuilding bikini competitions, and she also coaches women in these competitions. But thinking about her lifestyle and the endurance and discipline required of it is just phenomenal. I see really just sneak peeks of it on social media, but I think it would be just an interesting perspective on the concept of endurance and discipline, because I mean that is like truly a huge piece of endurance, right? So her name's Kayla Krause. I'd be happy to make a connection. She's lives in Huntsville now, Alabama, but yeah, she's a spunky gal, super funny, and really close friend growing up.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely have to make the connection between those two. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. How can people connect with you, either personally or through, a city league, whatever, on socials, websites, what have it?
All right, let's run through the list. So my personal Instagram is Allie, Alli Cousins, Cousins. I just transitioned and made it a public profile, so we'll see how long that sticks. I think it's like part of me is like I need to put the story out there. I need to it's a part of me is so ingrained into it that being willing to share that is huge. So and then my email for City League is allison.cousins@stlcityleague.com. So if I'd be happy to talk to anybody who like feels really passionate about listening to this podcast, about this vision, wants to support in any way, or has any opinions or ideas. Very, very interested in collaborations and just hearing people's thoughts. City League, we have two Instagram accounts. One is STL City League, and the other one is kind of more focused on fundraising and events, which is STL City League Run. and our website is www.stlcityleague.com. So you can probably connect with me through any of those channels. I pretty much am the sole manager of all of those platforms, but I really hope that if anybody's listening to this podcast that resonates with my story or is passionate about with the mission and the vision, that we can connect, because that's what this is all about.
Great. Yep. We'll definitely put all those in the show notes and have people connect if they want to.
Thank you. And thank you for having me and allowing me to share my story and my vision.
I love it. I do have one question. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
The last question. You're from Alabama.
I am.
But you do not sound like you're from Alabama.
I know. Both my parents grew up in Michigan. They moved there like a couple months before I was born, and so like my household didn't have a strong dialect or kind of twang to it. So might have you. When I go back, like, and I talk to my neighbor who's like got a really strong Southern drawl, I will like pick it up sometimes. But when I was a little girl, I would always say our address. It was like 2605 Lancelot. and my family's all over the place and all over the United States. And so like my home life is like where you really pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fully immersed in Southern dialect and culture, but I think I just
never picked it up.
Family thing. Yeah. So
yeah, it's funny because I like totally adapt. So I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for 2.5 years. And by the time I was done with 2.5 years, I wasn't full on North Carolina. You can't fake that, right? But I had the little, the y'all and all of that, right?
When I go back, I pick things up and I'll be like, whoa,
where'd that come from?
Yeah. I was like, hey. Yes, I do. And like, even when I'm around my students, I'll find myself like using some of the slang terms or like just dialect. And I'm like, whoa, where does this, it's just like who you surround yourself with. But
I'm sure that I know that you get asked that, I'm sure, all the time, but I was like, I got to ask, like she says Alabama.
My family was only rooted there for my dad's job. So my parents lived there for 33 years and
wow.
Never picked it up.
And your parents never picked it up either?
Not at all. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Now they're here in St. Louis and they're like City League #1 and #2 supporters.
Oh, I bet.
Awesome.
I bet. That is so cool.
My whole family went and got the City League shirts.
I wish I could have gotten one. I need to get one.
Maybe we can reach out and we can see if there's still an opportunity. But
yeah.
So
all right.
It was so great to chat with you both. I really appreciate you giving me the platform and the space to share my story.
Absolutely. It's been great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll send over my photos and everything.
Yeah, definitely. So Allison, again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. We can't wait to follow up. We're gonna just keep in touch and we're gonna follow up and just watch City League grow by leaps and bounds. So thank you. Absolutely. But until then, we'll see you out on the road. Maybe I'll get you out on the trail.
I love it.
Thanks, Allison.
That's inspiring.
Yeah.
It was really great. That's just like, I can't even imagine like where it's just like, oh, there's a need. Let me fill it myself and build an organization from scratch.
I mean, how many times do we see that? We like, I really wish that this was different, right? Or I really wish we had this. And she took that I wish or why is there not? And was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. Why wait for somebody else to do it?
And to go out and actually like create an organization or create a league to do this. Like just go start talking to schools. That's what I was so impressed with. Like, you know what? We need volleyball. I'm going to go talk to school about setting up a volleyball league with this school and this school and this school. Like, I think that's just amazing. And then for it to grow into what it is now.
And I mean, it's still just in its infancy. So
it's still
I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
Really?
I like the plans that we heard.
really is what St. Louis needs. It's amazing. So I'm impressed. That's very glad to be kind of helping and interested in that organization, and helping Allison out. So yeah, it's been great. Absolutely. So yeah. So if hopefully everybody else liked this, I hope that it's a little different. This was a little different than our normal interviews, right? And we've told people we're going to shake it up. We're shaking it up. We've told people, we put it out there. Now we're actually doing it. So we've done some different interviews. We've done we're doing some different things. And I really am curious whether people, are liking this. So if you all like this, if you've all listened to Allison and are to like this kind of format, let us know. Send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, or of course you can subscribe to the podcast and rate us and leave a review. We always appreciate that. But just reach out. You can always email us at theendurancehousepodcast@gmail.com. And let us know what you think. If you want to check us out, some even more, help us, visit the sponsor and producer, the coaching company of Bellfly's Endurance Coaching. It's coming up on race season, and if you need any advice or a little extra help, get you over that hump, you can just check us out. You can call us, text us, email us. Go to bellflysendurancecoaching.com. You can email me at jeff@bellflysendurancecoaching.com, or you can call or text anytime, 636-492-2808. Anyway, Tammy, it's been fun. I really enjoyed this one. I'm glad that we were able to put it together and have Allison on.
Yeah, it was very interesting and inspiring.
So all right, until next time, see you out on the trail.
See you out there.
Thanks.